Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of my virtual book club. I am so excited that you joined us today. This is a great time to be here because as we are in the midst of a pandemic and seemingly most of us are stuck at home, what better time than to read a good book? And each week we plan to give you some of the best authors that we can find in this nation. And so today we're excited about our guest today. So I want you to make sure you take this time, this moment, to share it right now. If you have not done so already, start a watch party. Tell somebody that the virtual book club is on right now. You do not want to miss this awesome author on today. So make sure you click that share button. Make sure you click it even now, and you'll be glad that you did. Today we have a very special guest joining us today. We have Kimberly Carter Spivey. Hi, Kim. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good, thank you. And we're excited to have you as a part of our virtual book club today. Won't you
I'm
start
so
off by
glad to be
just giving us a little bit of insight of who is Kim Spivey?
Sure. So I'm a writer, of course, author, entrepreneur, and blogger.
Okay.
I do freelance. I have a freelancing business, Girl You Write. And through that, I also have a lifestyle blog that I write for women. So I do write for several publications in Montgomery, Alabama. And I am also a content editor for a publication in Dothan, Alabama. And I guess you could say I have two parts to my career, because my other half of my career is that I'm an instructional systems designer for the
Okay.
Air Force. So I design online classes and curriculum for airmen.
Wow. So you safe to say you have a busy schedule.
I do. I have a
Yeah,
very busy schedule.
right. All right. So
Yes, and
now
I'm also a wife and mom.
a wife and on top of all that, you have a real job, which is a wife and mom, right?
Exactly. Yes.
Good. So tell us, how did you become an author? What led to the process of writing a book?
Well, I've always had a dream of becoming an author. And so it's one of those things that I felt like I did put it off for years for several reasons. I felt like I was, out of fear. I felt like, maybe I'm not a good enough writer to produce a book out into the world. I don't have the appropriate tools or resources to actually complete a book. And I really didn't know that much about writing a book, but it's always just been a passion of mine and it's been a dream of mine. And one of the things that really motivated me to write a book is that God was persistent. And
Right.
so he sent me several signs that I should write this book. I wanted to put a text together that would help women overcome some of their challenges in life. And I wrote it specifically for women because I'm a woman, therefore I feel like I can relate to other women. And I've used certain tactics and tools to catapult myself to the next level. So I also wanted that for other women as well and share that with them.
Okay, great. So you have written your first book,
I
and
have
and when did you write your first? When did you officially publish your book?
I officially published it on September 1st
Of this year.
of this year. Yes.
Wow. So it is
Yeah.
brand
Well,
new.
if I want to be more technical, it was actually published August 29th and it was released September 1st of this year.
Nice. Okay, so tell us a little bit about your book called Bloom.
Yeah, sure. Again, it's one of those things where it's a book to block out the voices of dissent, to get
Mhm.
over some of those fears that we often have in life, to dream bigger, to go after your goals, no matter what happens in life. And so it's a book, again, that I provide a lot of tactics and tools. I kind of break down certain things that you can do to get yourself to the next level of your goal, because sometimes I feel like there are certain goals that we all have. Sometimes we just don't know how to get there. And
Yeah,
so throughout this book, that is one of the things that I provide. Also, of talking about actually putting a plan into action so that you're able to execute those certain goals that you want to achieve.
good. So in order to bloom, I would suppose using the flower or the seed as an acronym? How do we get to the place where we even begin to understand what it takes to even start to bloom in the first place?
So it's one of those things where we're all at different places in our lives, and sometimes we tend to be in a place that in our lives that we really don't want to be in at the moment, because sometimes, we think ahead, we think in the future, and we feel like that we should be 20 steps ahead, and sometimes we feel like we're 20 steps backwards. But what it is, it's about being able to bloom where you are now in this life at this very moment.
Right.
So sometimes we always say, well, I'm going to wait until the next 2 years and this will be done, or I'm going to wait 5 years from now, my kids will be older. So it's one of those things where the time is now. So utilize the resources that you have in your life right now to get to where you want to be. And it's one of those things that I talk about. Just because you're not where you are just yet, that doesn't mean you can't bloom right where you are. Because any type of resources that you have, your skill set that you have now, use that. Use what you have now to get to where you want to be.
Good. So some of us are guilty of looking at your situation or comparing yourself to other people in order to try to bloom where you're planted. What's one of the first things that you feel like is important when dealing with, maybe some of our own inward feelings?
Right. So that's a good point that you just raised, because I do talk about in the book of the comparison game, because I think that most of us are guilty through our lives. Sometimes we look at others and we feel like, well, I'm not where this person is now, or I should be further. But it's not about that. It's about reflecting on yourself.
Okay.
And knowing your capabilities right now. So because everybody is different, everybody grows in a different direction, everybody has their time, throughout life. And it's one of those things where, versus comparing yourself to someone else, focus solely on you right now.
Okay.
Love yourself enough, evaluate yourself enough to where you can get to where you want to be. So, the whole comparison thing in itself, sometimes that does creep in our lives, and that's okay. But when that happens, you have to be able to shift your mindset in a different direction, because you are the person that you're responsible for, and you're the person that you have to focus on. So you can't worry about what anybody else is doing to your right or left. Just, look straight ahead and try to keep your focus on yourself.
And just in staying in that vein, also, like, self-doubt creeps in, of course, in any of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you give some personal, like, how is it that you were able to deal with some of maybe personal self-doubt, things like that, in order to do your self-evaluation? How do we get past, can I really do this, right?
Yeah, so sure. So me personally, it was about doing something and failing, but getting
Mm,
back up and doing it
good.
over again and doing it
Yeah.
over again. Because when that happens, for me personally, that builds my confidence, that builds my momentum, that increases my motivation. So it's one of those things where you can't be afraid to fail. And failure is not a bad thing. Failure is one of those things where it takes practice, and failure gives you lessons, it prepares you. So that is how I turn certain things around for myself, is not being afraid of what anyone else thinks,
Hmm.
not being afraid of failing,
Hmm.
but to have enough within me that I wanted to get up and
Right.
try again. I've been talking about journaling. I talk about affirmations in the book. Those are some things that can help you get over those types of hurdles, because like you said, self-doubt, I talk about that. It really does creep in everyone's life, and sometimes it's really hard to get over that barrier. But
Yeah.
using things like affirmation, writing in your journal, prayer, I meditate. So those are some of the things that have helped me personally get over those types of hurdles.
Okay, good. So you talked about failures, and many people may look at you and they feel like, well, you don't understand, and You know, they feel like you've never been through anything, of course. But there are people who get stuck in their failures and they feel as if, you know, the world is coming to an end for them. What do you have for people who are stuck in a place of a
Mhm.
victim mentality almost, where it's like, you know,
Right.
you want to feel sorry for yourself?
Yeah. So in my book, I talk about that in one of the chapters, and it's the woe is me syndrome. So
Mm,
it's one of those things where no one can pull you up but yourself. You
mm,
have to want it enough within yourself to just pull yourself up and just keep going and keep pushing. Because the longer that you have this pity party yourself, you're wasting valuable time that you could have moved on to the next step. And
mm.
so you got to ask yourself, how bad do you really want it? And are you willing to work hard for it? Are you willing to do that hard work, squeeze it in when you can? Are you willing to fall? Are you willing to do that, but also knowing that you can rise up again?
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's something that I think everyone should internalize as far as, you know, because I, just like I talk about in my book, I provide the tactics, the tools, and strategies, but it also has to come from within you also. You have to do your part. So once you hone in and accept that, I think that's huge. That gets you towards that next step.
Good, good. So in the process of becoming, in the process, uh, help people to understand what the final outcome feels like. What does it feel like once you finally start to bloom for themselves?
Well, it's you know, not only is it rewarding that you can actually see something physically or see a number or you know see something that's tangible in your hand that you created, but it's also an internal feeling.
Okay,
It's
good.
also that internal spiritual feeling that I feel like you have once you've accomplished something and you move toward the next step. Because here's my philosophy, every step is a step closer to your goal. So
Mm,
small steps matter just as much as those big milestones.
yeah,
So when you start to take the next step to get closer, celebrate that. Know that that is also a huge milestone as well, because that needs to be celebrated as well. So when you start seeing the outcome, when you start seeing the fruits of your labor, when you start to see a shift or a transition in your life, that you're able to maybe handle things better, that you're more motivated, that you have kicked procrastination to the curb. Those are certain things to let you know that you're going in the right direction. And so that's how it feels personally for me. So there's just different things that kind of go into that equation. And once those things start to unfold, I feel like that's when you've arrived.
yeah. I think self-celebration is another part of the process where many people wait to get applause from other people or wait for
Mhm.
somebody else to say, you know, great job or whatever the case may be. But I think, yeah, like what you said, is celebrating your small victories because only you know how many hurdles you've had to overcome and, you know,
Exactly.
how many times you failed. And then when you finally win, you know, people look at you like, why are you so excited? Like, you don't know how many
Yeah,
times I've fallen and couldn't get up, right?
exactly.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
that's wonderful. Okay, so what do you have that you're working on now or that's coming up in the future that you want people to know about?
Yeah, sure. So, you know, really just focusing on my book right now, getting it out there, getting it to other people's hands so that they can read it, they could connect with it. Because the purpose of me writing the book, my goal was to awaken something within people that's been lying dormant within them for way too long. It's about pushing through those hard things. And so, and especially during a time such as this, during the pandemic, I think this is something that's definitely helpful to anyone. And like I said earlier, I did specifically write it for women because I'm a woman, and again, I can relate to women, but really, it's really for anyone. My husband has read, excuse me, my book cover. Things that, again, it's really for anyone. And lastly, I would say, if it's something that you want to do, if it's something that that you have a big dream, or God has been speaking to you to do something, to complete something, go after it, and just know that if you fall, that's okay. What matters is having the resilience to get back up and do it again, because your dreams deserve to live no matter what the circumstances are. And, again, remember, those small increments, those smaller milestones, they matter too.
Okay, great. So we're excited about the fact that you have just launched your book the beginning of September. Tell everyone how they can keep up with all things Kimberly Spivey and how they can get the book Bloom.
Sure. So my book is available on Amazon, and also signed copies can be purchased at girlyourwrite.com, and that's WRITE. And also you can follow me on Instagram at Girl You Write, and also on Facebook at Girl You Write.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. As we prepare to leave, do you have any final words of encouragement before we leave?
I will just, encourage everyone to just keep going after your goals, keep pushing. Just know that, tomorrow is another day. Give yourself grace also throughout the time that you're trying to achieve things, because if you stay the course, if you stay consistent, things will happen. A transformation will happen. And I will also like to say I'm always open to reviews about my book. You're welcome to leave a review on Amazon if you ever have a question about my book. I'd love to discuss that. My email address is Kimberly@girlyouwrite.com, and Kimberly is spelled KIMBERLEY @girlyouwrite.com.
All right. Also, one more thing. For those who may be watching who are inspiring authors, who are in the midst of writing or thinking about writing, what advice, now that you have published your first book, what advice would you give those people who are thinking about writing or in the process of writing and maybe at a standstill? What words of encouragement could you give them?
For me personally, I always advise blogging. That's a great way to practice your craft. Blogging, because you're able to connect with your audience. You're able to polish your work. So blogging is always a great place to start. But if you're looking to become an author, you want to become a writer and write for different publications, practice is key. So every day practice. Journal writing is perfect for that as well. So I would definitely encourage blogging or journal writing, or even if you took a free writing class, there's so many free resources online that you can take a workshop on beginning starting out writing. So any of those things are very helpful if you're looking just to break into the world of writing.
All right. Well, thank you again so much, Kimberly, for being with us today. We are excited about your book, and I want you to make sure that if you have enjoyed this interview, you'll enjoy the book even more. So make sure you go on Amazon to get the book Bloom, and make sure you get it for somebody who may need that encouragement, that push, that no matter where you are, you can bloom where you are planted. Remember, we do this every Tuesday, 6 o'clock. So I want you to make sure that you share this. Again, share it right now, even now, so that you can share it with someone else that needs to be encouraged that they too can bloom. My name is Rashard Hollman, and we want you to know we love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Thank you.